Hello, and welcome to Joe's Art History Podcast Bite Size Edition. Small, manageable episodes which allow me to deep dive into a specific artwork or artist. On today's episode, we look at Ai Wei Wei and his world-renowned installation, Sunflower Seeds. Let's get started. For those of you that may not know, Ai Wei Wei is a Chinese contemporary artist, documentarian, and activist. He was born in China, and his works largely are in conversation about and challenge his upbringing under the Chinese government. Today, we're going to be talking about Sunflower Seeds, which is an art installation created by Ai Wei Wei, and it's arguably one of his best-known pieces, which he's produced. It was first exhibited at Tate Modern and was commissioned for their Turbine Hall. For those of you that don't know, Tate Modern is a gallery that's on the banks of the Thames in London, and it is situated in what used to be a power station. Since Tate opened in 2000, has always commissioned a specific work for their Turbine Hall, and it's seen as one of the most prestigious commissions a contemporary artist can be asked to do. But it's also caused some controversy, and Ai Wei Wei's piece was no different. Now, the piece was made up of 100 million sunflower seeds, which filled the gallery's 100 square metre turbine hall to a depth of 10 centimetres. Now, that doesn't sound so odd, you might ask yourself. However, the sunflower seeds were not real. Each was an individually crafted and painted porcelain sunflower seed. So why sunflower seeds, and why 100 million of them, and why porcelain? All great questions. Sunflower seeds were a common theme of the Chinese Communist Party political propaganda during Ai Wei Wei's childhood. Leader Mao Zedong would often represent himself as the sun and the Chinese people as sunflowers working and growing together. So Ai Wei Wei here is poking fun at where he was brought up and sort of picking apart and questioning the idea of individualism or group mentality. I find this installation really quite interesting for lots of different reasons. First of all, he commissioned these sunflower seeds to be made in this small town called Zhongdenzheng, and he actually employed a people within this town to work for 2.5 years making these porcelain sunflowers, which were made in molds and then broken out of their molds. They were then hand painted and then fired in kilns all over this town. Now, why this town in particular was because Yongdenzhen used to serve the emperor's court, and it was known as producing the best quality porcelain and porcelain vases, and served the emperor's court for centuries. Ai Wei Wei visited the town about 5 or 6 years before he was given the commission to see if he could push the idea of these very iconic symbols produced in this town further. And when Tate approached him to do this installation, he knew exactly what he wanted to do and where he could make them. So as I said, it's over the span of 2.5 years in this tiny little porcelain capital town, set to work in making these sunflower seeds. And Tate actually commissioned a video during the making of it, and I'll leave a link to it in the show notes below, because it's an incredibly uncomfortable watch. Uncomfortable because the sheer poverty in the town, the sheer magnitude of which people are working, how they're working. And this was not lost when the sunflower seeds came to London. There was a lot of conversation around slave labour, mass labour, but also this is exactly what Ai Wei wanted to happen. He wanted people to question the idea of consumerism and mass production, and how actually the people that are mass producing things are treated. Now, all of Ai Wei Wei's ceramicists and painters were paid. However, they were paid roughly between £250 and £350. I don't know if that's for their entirety of their work for 2.5 years, but in the Tate video, they ask one of the workers, how much money were you paid? And she tells you. They thank her for her hard work, and she was like, no, don't thank me, I was paid for it. So 100 million sunflower seeds were then shipped from this tiny little village in China to London, and they were installed, as I said, over the 100,000 square metres of the Turbine Hall in Tate, When the installation launched in October 2010, visitors were actually allowed to walk over the sunflower seeds. And you could walk, you could lie in them, you could play with them. In the video that Tate has in the show notes, people are like picking them up, pocketing them. People are like nibbling at them to make sure that they're real, even though they're not real. It's a really interesting installation. However, 10 days after it opened, the Tate released a statement which said people were no longer allowed to walk on the installation. Why is this? Well, although porcelain is very, very strong, you must imagine if it's constantly having to put up with people walking over it, regardless of how deep they are, things are going to break. And essentially it was kicking up dust, which the Tate had sort of examined and had decided that even though it was going to be in place for 6 months, the amount of dust that it was kicking up would not be good for its workers or for people to inhale. So they decided that they would close off the installation and people could only stand on the edge of the installation, which kind of took away from the point of, I think, what Ai Wei Wei was trying to do. He was trying to really show you that when you pick up one sunflower seed, there's a significance. They were individual, they were imperfect, because again, they were all hand painted, beautiful, beautiful things. But when you threw it back on the pile and took a step back, 100 million together, they kind of lose meaning and they become one mass. Again, that's poking fun at the idea of not only the Communist Party, but what individualism is today, particularly in a consumer society. Juliet Bingham, curator of Tate Modern, said on the installation, Ai Wei Wei's commission, Sunflower Seeds, is a beautiful, poignant and thought-provoking sculpture. The thinking behind the work lies in far more than just the idea of walking on it. The prestigious nature of the material, the effort of production, and the narrative and personal context create a powerful commentary on the human condition. Sunflower Seeds is a vast sculpture that visitors can contemplate at close range on level 1 or look upon from the Turbine Hall Bridge above. Each piece is part of the whole, a commentary on the relationship between the individual and the masses. The work continues to pose challenging questions. What does it mean to be an individual in today's society? Are we insignificant or powerless unless we act together? What do our increasing desires, materialism, and number mean for society, the environment, and the future? When the installation was closed to the public in April 2011, the seeds were once again bagged up, and Tate inherited about 8 million of them, which they apparently show in a cone-shaped structure in Tate Modern. I don't know if it's currently on display or if it's in storage. Now, I did say at the beginning of this, it's still impacting the market because you see these sunflower seeds all over the place. There are a series of works called Ai Wei Wei Stolen Sunflower Seeds from the Tate, and it's done by a gallery called Jealous in London. They frame 20 sunflower seeds and they sell that to people, I think, for about £50. And it was a very common thing, actually, for people to come and pick up seeds because people knew the number of them. And there was constant statements released from Tate asking people to stop taking the sunflower seeds because essentially, although there was 100 million, they wanted as many people to see the installation in all its glory. Ai Wei Wei actually sold 10 kilograms of the sunflower seeds in 2011, shortly after the installation closed at Sotheby's, and it took home $600,000, which is not bad for 10 kilograms of sunflower seeds. God knows what you're going to do with them. And then again in 2012, another 10 kilogram bag was sold through the auction house, and that within a year went for a staggering £782,000. So there you have it, a whistle-stop tour of Ai Wei Wei's sunflower seeds. You have been listening to Jo's Art History Podcast Bite Size, small, manageable episodes which sees me, Jo McLaughlin, your resident host and art historian, deep dive into a specific artwork or artist in 10 minutes or less. If you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, rate and subscribe as it helps other listeners find us. If you want to support the podcast, why not leave us a review or tell someone you know who may enjoy listening all about it. If you would like to support the future of the podcast, please consider purchasing and gifting me a book from my Amazon wishlist included in the show notes below. If you would like to get in touch, please feel free to do so. It'd be lovely to hear from you. You can email me joesarthistory@gmail.com, or you can find me via Instagram, which is @joesarthistory, or you can search for my name, Jo McLaughlin, and you'll find me that way too. Finally, I've been your host and your resident art historian, Jo McLaughlin, and thank you so much for listening. Keep learning, and remember, art is for all, even in bite-sized editions. See you next time. Bye.